a police report says that there are details of at least 3 City of Mesa Rangers that are accused of sharing a Goon Squad patch. Now, to get the Goon Squad patch, you had to earn it. Mm-hmm. And the Mesa police report says the patch was given to Rangers who participated in gooning in order to deal with, quote, the homeless problem and N-words.
Always good.
So evidently you were supposed to assault homeless people or people of color, and then you could be initiated into their club. We got into, if you missed it, pick up the podcast after the show, but it is not a pretty tale, sounds like, the allegations that are out.
No, they're not good.
No, not great. One person's lost their job, and it's not cool at all. Michael Klinkner is a licensed family therapist, and he's joining us now. And you'll be able to see his pretty face on the YouTube channel, by the way. Michael, I'm always struck when I see people who are adults, grown adults, behaving so badly, because if there's one thing we know, society frowns upon things like the N-word. They frown upon authoritarianism, and yet it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And so I'm left wondering, how does this come about? Are these emotions, are these feelings, is this hatred brewing deep inside, and suddenly you find yourself in the right clique and then it emerges? How does this happen?
Yeah, it can happen a couple of different ways. One is you can have things inside of you, that racism like this, or like these gooning behaviors that they're calling them. It can be from things like personal insecurity, like your own self-loathing, a need for power. And as a result, what you're able to do is then you're able to make yourself feel a whole lot better. And being included in racist groups like this, you're now included, you get to feel superior, you're part of a group, and you exclude other people from part of the group. The patch is a perfect example that if I'm racist and I'm violent on people who are very vulnerable, I'm now in the group, and you don't have the patch, now you're not in my group. And so if someone is really worried about being able to fit in, or like has those insecurities, now you got it. Now you're part of a group that everyone can be of. It can also come from just ongoing exposure to these ideas over and over again, drinking the Kool-Aid, if you will. If you're around this enough, you get a bit of a mob mentality. There's a very famous experiment from the 70s called the Stanford Prison Experiments, where just normal average people were assigned to different groups, either to be fake inmates or to be fake guards. And the guards end up doing some awful things that were outside of their own morality, based on just perceived pressure and peer pressure to authority.
Yeah, if I recall, by the way, didn't they have to cut that experiment short because it got too violent?
Oh, it got so out of control so quickly that they had to quit early. It was the person putting it together. It was his girlfriend that said, like, hey, like, what are you doing to these people? What's going on with your morality? And she was the one that eventually influenced him to call it, because it got so bad and so out of control so quickly. And these were just normal average people. These were people that signed up to be part of an experiment. They're at Stanford.
Yeah.
And yet they became like that.
Michael Klinkner is our licensed family therapist. And if you observe things like this, Michael, or you're told that things like this are going on, how do you break these behaviors, or how do you counsel a child or a teen through them with their parents? Because I'm guessing it's not an easy thing to do, certainly not just a session or two. How do you work through it as a therapist?
Yeah, so again, it depends on where it's going to be coming from. And so we're not born racist. We become racist. We're taught to be racist. And so the first thing is, if it's a kid or a teenager, let's say, that I'm working with, and it would show up in, racist behaviors or bullying at school, things like that, then wherever the information is coming from, we're going to start to work to debunk that. If it's coming from the family and things that they're saying, then I'm going to work with the family about what their ongoing influence is with their kids. And so it's really hard to change an adult who's racist and raising their kids as racist, but the influence of the violence and what it means and what it's doing to people, or even like lots of misogyny these days that we see about what it means for your kid and what you're creating. And so you may hold these beliefs, and I don't know that I can change your beliefs, but you can parent your kid differently. If it's an adult that's coming in, again, underneath it all, we're going to be looking for those feelings of insecurity, improving social status, like the low self-esteem. And if we can help that person grow their self-esteem and go other places for their social status, then if we can work on those root causes, it doesn't have to come out in the behaviors that we're seeing.
So I'm really interested in what you're saying about the social status, and you also made mention of misogyny. And Joe and I were talking about this in the last segment. We talked about the manosphere that we're seeing that is growing nationwide, which seems to be an emphasis on this ideal of the alpha male. Going back to something else you mentioned when you brought up the Stanford prison experience, and you said that what we saw was a mob mentality takeover, which could be the case when it comes to these goon squads in Mesa. Mob mentality. Is this a group think? Or is this sort of a follow the leader? I mean, at some point, somebody comes up with the idea that says, what if we just beat these people up? And somebody else then goes along with it. I mean, who's pushing this along? How much of this is organic within a mob, and how much of it is one leader that others start to follow?
Most typically, there's going to be a leader. There has to be someone to whom you want to aspire to be like or to be liked by. And then following that, whenever that leader person, and it could be a formal or informal leader, but whenever they're displaying those behaviors and you want acceptance from them, or you esteem them, and then you're going to then start to mirror those behaviors. Of course, we do that for so many things. And then whenever you get in with that leader person and other people see that or aware of it, then we'll see that mob mentality underneath it. And so there's always a leader of a mob. There's always, someone's giving out the Kool-Aid to drink the Kool-Aid. There's going to be a lead person. And then it takes on a life of its own underneath everything.
Is that maybe why, does that help explain why we're seeing sort of a rise in this misogyny? Is that we've got some leaders, whether it's Joe, we were talking about this with the Tates. Is it the Tate brothers?
I
those guys,
so,
yeah,
yes.
Or the Jake Paul and Logan Pauls or whatever. I mean, is this it? We start to idolize these people, and then people want to emulate that behavior.
Oh, 100%. And so when we talk about the manfluencers, that are people that do a lot of this influencing around the misogyny, the other things that they're putting out there have to do with, this is how you make money, and this is how you get you can get girls, and this is, look how great my life is, look how great I'm doing, and then these are the codes that I hold true, and if you do it, you can be just like me too. And so for people with insecurities, especially younger kids that are vulnerable, or even older adults, around that idea of isolation and rejection from women, and not able to, and don't have the life that you want, when someone is presenting something that way, you're going to be vulnerable to it if you're exposed to it enough and don't see through it and don't impose some of your own morals on it.
Michael Klinkner is our licensed family therapist. And going down that road, Michael, is this behavior tougher to break if it's a parent or if it's a peer? Or does it really just depend on the situation, whoever that leader may be? Or it could be, I suppose, an uncle or a big brother, things like that. Is it tougher if it's family or somebody from school or a friend?
It's tougher if it's family, because then the family culture lots of times is going to be around that. It's unlikely that there's just the one person in the family that is going to be that way, that is going to influence you that way. Lots of times it's going to be lots of people in the family, and it's part of their family culture. And now you're battling a whole family culture where things have to change. And usually if you want, the person within it has to betray the family and be different and get outside of what they're saying and what they're espousing in order to get back into balance. And that's really hard. You have to give up so much. So you have to give up so many aspects of family and lack of acceptance. And if the reason you're there has to do with you're looking for acceptance, you're looking for belonging, and now you have to give up all of it to be back in balance, that's a big ask. That's hard.
I think is what happened with this Mesa Park Ranger situation. I think they got snitched on by somebody who was, another ranger there. Yeah. Our licensed family therapist, Michael Klinkner. Thank you so much, Michael. It's always great to have you on the show. We love talking with you, and we love diving deep into some of what drives us to be, well, good or bad, I suppose. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Always appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe, and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.